Shri Shri Ras Viharini Ju Ki Jai. Sab Vaishnavan Ko Jai Shri Krishna. Shiksha Patra readings by Shri Braj Kishori Seva Trust. Day 65, letter 25, which has 16 verses. Faith in and loyalty to Sri Acharyaji's lotus feet. Translator's introduction. This 25th letter examines faith, surrender to Sri Vallabhacharyaji's lotus feet, the Lord's grace, and the 8-syllable prayer. The 25th letter advises you to establish Sri Vallabhacharyaji's lotus feet firmly in your heart, knowing them without a doubt to be the supreme reward. Those who doubt are ungodly and do not progress on the path of devotion as revealed in the Sri Subodhaniji and his other writings. The only way to reach the Lord is His grace. In the same way as the senses cannot operate if there is no vital force in the body, no practice will work without the Lord's grace. This will be further explained in this letter. You should never harbour anxiety, and you should know that the 8-syllable mantra, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, is the supreme liberator. But if you do not perfect your refuge in Sri Vallabhacharyaji's feet, all your thousands of practices can never be successful. The reward is granted to those who truly always seek refuge in his lotus feet. Read further. Verse 1. Sri Krishna becomes compassionate on those who surrender to Sri Vallabhacharyaji's lotus feet with respect, and he never leaves that devotee. Tika 1. Sri Suradasji has described the sentiment of such a devotee who has unwavering devotion to and deep reverence for Sri Vallabha's lotus feet. Have firm faith in his feet. Without the light from the toenails of Sri Vallabha's feet, the whole world strays in darkness. The Lord is always compassionate to such a devotee and reveals to them his joyous form. Verse 2. Sri Krishna, the remover of all sorrows, favours those who have been blessed by Sri Acharyaji's sidelong glance and pardons their thousandfold faults that would normally be intolerable to him. The Lord favours those who surrender to Sri Vallabha. When the devotee Padmanabh Das made all his offerings only of soaked chickpeas, the Lord lovingly accepted them through Sri Acharyaji's grace. Sri Vallabha's grace-filled glance grants the essence of devotion, and so Sri Lord Krishna favours such a devotee. Even if they make many offerings, the Lord still forgives them. Even if they make many offences, the Lord still forgives them and showers his blessing on them. Verse 3. I have endless impurities, but I take shelter in those devotees in whose heart Sri Acharyaji's feet are established. Tika. When Sri Acharyaji's feet are firmly lodged in a devotee's heart, their countless faults are pardoned and obstacles are removed from their path. Verse 4. The moonlight coolness of the toenails of Sri Acharyaji's lotus feet removes the burning affliction of the devotees. Tika 4. The 10 toes of Sri Acharyaji's lotus feet are very beautiful. Just one single toenail shames the brightness of the moon. Those devotees who establish those toenail moons in their heart are relieved of the 3 types of affliction, spiritual, worldly, and divine, or those of body, speech, and mind, which are a conglomeration from many lifetimes. They also remove all the sins which prevent a devotee from meeting the Lord. Such are Sri Vallabha's lotus feet, that they grant bliss to those who serve them. Verse 5. The world and the Vedas may promise 100-fold fruits, but for me the only fruit is the attainment of Sri Acharyaji's lotus feet. Tika 5. This world and the Vedas promise a lot of things. For those following the path of knowledge or the path of lawful limitations, the highest reward is the attainment of Satyaloka, the abode of Brahma, where one can merge into the absolute impersonal. But in the path of grace it has no value. Even the 4 types of liberation are considered insignificant, for the highest fruit is just a taste of the nectar of Sri Krishna's lips, a reward which cannot be attained through mere practices. That elixir is granted through reaching Sri Vallabhacharyaji's lotus feet. Verse 6. Certainly the true reward can never arise from following the Vedic laws of action. Also the mind gets turned away from Sri Krishna by listening to statements that are not connected to him. Tika 6. The Vedas list many types of prescribed action and practice. The paths of knowledge, yoga, action, and worship detail many practices like fasts, restraints, observances, and rules to follow. None of them lead to the fruit of the path of grace, which regards as supreme the divine loving sentiment that the gopis embody. This reward comes with Sri Acharyaji's grace and not from any specific practice. Embodied souls who are turned away from Sri Krishna cannot appreciate or enjoy, neither with their heart nor their ears, the nectar of his names and glories. Verse 7. The path of knowledge is sometimes considered the reward because from it arises devotion within the path of lawful limitations. But that type of devotional path is not actually the reward because it leads to liberation, which removes the difference between the embodied soul and the Lord, from which arises the attitude of being the Lord's servant. Tika 7. The scriptures say that knowledge is the foundation of devotion, and that when you gain such knowledge, you also gain devotion. But this is the devotion of the path of lawful limitations, where righteous living, wealth, fulfillment of desires, and liberation are the fruits, and so knowledge is given first place, and this lawfully limited devotion ensues. Both of these, knowledge and this type of devotion, are opposed to the rewards of the path of grace, mainly because they do not promote the sense of being the Lord's servant. The soul on the path of grace must nurture that sentiment of servitude, with the Lord as their master and their righteous path being to serve him. Knowledge opposes this sentiment. Verse 8. This devotion of the path of grace is totally superior. However, until it arises or is known, the devotion of the path of lawful limitations is considered to be the fruit. Tika. The point of view of this path of limited devotion based on knowledge is I am the absolute Brahman. When this attitude is present, one's natural sentiment of servitude to the Supreme dissolves. Therefore, know the devotion of the path of grace to be the crest jewel superior to all other forms of devotion. We will pause from the reading until tomorrow. Sab Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna. Shri Vallabhacharya Ji ke Charan Kamalo mein Sada Sarvata Dandavat और सादर प्रणाम. श्री श्री रास विहारणी जी की जय. जय श्री राधे.